Hi everyone, today is September 21st, 2019, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week in the Duel World, we have a bunch of things going on. The KC Cup wrapped up early in the week, so that's all over. We'll talk about some of that. Some of the reports we have from KC Cup number 16, which came out. We'll talk about the top decks there. A bunch of esports going on right now. Some fallout from the Kaiba Cup. We have some new decks and new evolutions of decks. That's really important to talk about. The meta has changed because of the Kaiba Cup, not because of new cards. We're waiting for Dimension World to come out, so a lot of hype there. And we'll talk about some of the expectations in the podcast question of the week. Duelist Chronicles GX Yubel. We got some new cards there. New duel skill. And also very much covers Season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. We have two other new cards that are pretty unremarkable. Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. Doug Dimaduel Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk has an every spellcaster deck. And every spellcaster that kind of plays on Fortune Lady Every, which is basically a Fortune Lady deck, and also various spellcasters. So it's a synchro deck on Fortune Ladies. Yeah. So, to participate, please subscribe to this podcast. Search the Duel Assessment Podcast on any of your searchers. Follow. Check out the podcast question of the week every Wednesday. And, let me know anything that needs to be changed with the podcast, and we'll try to oblige. Okay, so in terms of my week in the Duel World, pretty much my worst showing ever in the Kaiba Cup. I placed outside of the top 30,000, so I didn't really get... Well, you get that little placard before your duel. This is just the participation reward. I think previously I was top 10,000. That's where I usually am if I put in the duels. But it's not even that this time. I think I didn't play a lot, obviously. And I won less than 50%. I won 48% of my games. But also, this was a very good experience for people who liked competitive dueling. It's probably the most competitive Kaiba Cup that I've been in. I feel there was a meta. I feel people who did not like playing ranked games did not play it. I mean, they played ranked games or they played PvE instead of playing the Kaiba Cup. Almost every match I was going into, people were every season King of Game players, and that really shows that people who, the lower tier people probably did play to get their rewards every day, but the people who grinded out those games were real gamers here, and that really set the bar for competition, and I really did like that this time. You could play matchups in your head. I was playing 6 Sams, the Hatsume version of 6 Sams, and predictably, well, not to my prediction, but predictably the deck did not do great, against certain meta decks like Fortune Ladies, or for example. So that was a pretty good experience, I must say, even though I did not do well at all. And in switching gears to ranked duels, I've been playing Nordics. I kind of did it just to get the goat mats, which is kind of stupid, goat mats and sleeves, but now that I have them, I'm still playing them. They are part of the banished meta. The deck that I run is the Crystron Quadrant Gandrix version, where you try to get Mara, the Nordic Alpha, out early, and then banish all their monsters and swing for 3,000. That's pretty much the strategy of this deck. You could run some of the Azer monsters. I do have those in my deck, but those are harder to play. And of course, Black Rose Dragon is very important in that deck. But because you can't derank anymore, I got to Legend 1, so that's a little achievement there. This deck seems to be doing horribly in Legend 1. I mean, I'm still winning games, but I'm trying to get to the point where I can rank up to Legend 2. I may have to switch out decks to do that. But in the biggest news this week is I finally got Destiny Draw while I was playing this deck in PvP. Initially, I was playing Yami Yugi for Sorcery Conduit. So Sorcery Conduit is a draw skill where you draw a spellcaster. And the only spellcaster in that Nordic deck is Mara, the Nordic Alfar. So that was when I was trying to draw into my Crystron Quadrant Gandrix play. So now I got Destiny Draw, and I've replaced Sorcery Conjure with Destiny Draw because it's better. So it's a big accomplishment for someone who's been playing the game since day one to finally get a dual skill without skill farming. So I am glad that's over. Okay, so let's talk about the Kaiba Cup. They have the KC Cup report number 16. There's sort of conflicting news out there, I think. Duel Links Meta has compiled a list of 100 top 100 duelists, but what Konami's showing you is a little different in terms of the top decks. I think they don't want to show you the same deck over and over again. I think that's kind of why they fudged the data a little bit, but we're going to talk about the official decks that they have. I'm trying to pull up the KC Cup report on my phone. So they have 3 top decks. Can't find these decks anymore. Shoot. Alright, so this is the first place deck, and it's confirmed based on the comparison with Duel Links Meta that it is Haru. So Haru played a Time Passage Fortune Lady deck, and this sets the tone for the new Fortune Ladies going forward. So the core of the deck: 1 Fortune Lady Light, 2 Fortune Lady Wind, 3 Fortune Lady Past, 2 Fortune Lady Water, 3 Fortune Lady Calling, and 1 Fortune Vision. So basically, if you're from the Carly event, you had to get 1 light. I think this is the card I only have 2 of, so I'm glad that you didn't need 3. When you're buying the box, though, Valhalla Calling, you need the 3 buy-throughs of Fortune Lady Callings. That's a UR. I currently have 2 of these, so I'm fishing out for my 3rd. And of course, you need the 3 Fortune Lady Past, which is an SR. You should get that as well. The other cards in this deck: 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Econ, 3 Drowning Mirror Force, 1 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, and 1 The Regulation of Tribe. The extra deck has Vermilion Dragon Mech, Scrap Dragon, Red Dragon Archfiend, Arcanite Magician, Armadides, and Fortune Lady Every. This deck, there's a lot of level modulation going on with Fortune Lady Past. That's the card that you could be flexible with. Typically, Fortune Ladies were designed for level 7. That's what Every and Arcanite Magician are for. You can modulate to level 8, so it's Red Dragon Archfiend and Scrap Dragon. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror and the Regulation or Tribe are the meta calls to combat, like Dark Lords in the graveyard or Desperados in the hand, things like that. That's the first place deck. The second place deck is Dark Lords. It's a beatdown Dark Lords deck, and this is played by Jason, pretty much confirmed by Duel Links Meta. And this is the full toolbox version, and what I mean by that is you've got 1 of each of these utility monsters. So you've got Dark Lord Desire, you've got Superbia, you've got Morningstar. Morningstar is a card that got cut out of a lot of decks, but now you have 1 copy of that. And Tetzlapakia. So, this is a pretty basic build. You've got your 3 Ixchel, that's a very important card. Ukobak is a card that's not in every deck, but it's in this deck. It's the only card you can normal summon. And 2 Dark Lord Nastin, very important card. 3 Banishment of the Dark Lords. 3 Dark Lord Contact. 2 the Sanctified Dark Lord. And the way you can kind of play around with Dark Lords is your other 2 cards, and they run 2 Hate Trunades, which is pretty much the 1-turn kill card to negate that back row. And then in their lists, they have Duelist B, who played a Master of Destiny Desperado deck. I'm not really sure who played this deck because it's not really confirmed from Duel Links Meta, but this is a very important deck because this is the evolution, the evolvement of Desperados. They've become a counter trap deck with a new Parshath package. If Deck Tech is listening out there, Parshath is back in the meta. So basically what's going on here, you've got your regular core for Desperados. Well, this only runs 2 Desperado Barrel Dragon, but then there's a Twin Barrel, there's 3 Blast Spiders, Dekoichi, of course, 2 Cup of Ace, Fiend Comedian is a card we've seen before. They have Gen X Ally Crusher for some back row control, and then a it's not a new card, but it's a card that was never really played before. Misjudge. It's a coin flip card, and with Master of Destiny, you're guaranteed your coin flip. So she is 1800. She will negate opponent's card effects. You could use it once per turn. So she kind of fits into the negate thing. What's going on here? Drowning Mirror Force for back row. 1 Divine Wrath, so discard a card, negate activation. 2 Debunks to prevent those hand effects. We know hand and graveyard effects, so we know what those are. 1 Ultimate Providence to counter any effect, so as long as you have a card in the hand that fits it. And 3 Rebirth of Parshath. This card, as long as you have a counter trap in your hand, discard 1 card, pay 1,000, negate a spell, trap, or monster effect, and special summon Parshath. So your extra deck has 3 Avenging Knight Parshaths, which is a monster that has piercing. You could change your monster to defense mode. Their monster to defense mode and inflict piercing. So this is the evolution of Desperados. They've become a counter trap deck. And the KC Cup Report 16 also shows the top monsters and spells and traps. And what I want to abstract from the top monsters in the second stage is the top decks. Based on the number of monsters played, we could tell what the top decks were in Stage 2. And in Stage 2, Desperados were first, Dark Lords were second, Neos were splashed in, but they're kind of third. It's kind of like if Neos Fusion is played, that's the third most deck. 6 Sams is next. Cyberdarks are kind of splashed in if they kind of boost up the Desperado count, but they exist on their own too. So Cyberdark Desperado decks were 4 for 5th. Ancient Gears were next, an old standover, and then Fortune Lady. So those were the top archetypes. And if you played in the Kaiba Cup Stage 2, you would have seen these decks continuously. So it was a meta. It wasn't the same few decks. And then the final word on Stage 2, the top spells and traps. This one I kind of called. Some cards I didn't call, but obviously we've got a lot of good back row cards here. World Legacy Clash, obviously number 1. This is a card you see in every deck. I think this is a card that will get limited by Konami, just because of the low rarity, and because it's being used in every single deck. Cosmic Cyclone's number 2. Econ is 3. Treacherous Trap Hole 4. Paleozoic Canadia again, one of the best trap cards, 5th. And then 6th, this is the one that kind of just showed up, Drowning Mirror Force. I think with fewer Ancient Gear decks, and people just not caring about back row, I think that's just, if they hit it with a Cosmic Cyclone, sure, but then if there's just one back row, they're going to swing with a full monster board. So Drowning Mirror Force has seen significantly more play of late. So that's the Kaiba Cup report, and we're going to move on to other unofficial tournaments that have been going on. And we'll start with Duel Links Meta Weekly 90, where the Dark Lord meta has continued in this community. 13 of the top 32 were Dark Lords. Fortune Ladies are rising pretty fast, though, I must say. First place, Zico, 6 Sams. Sealed Tomb, 6 Sams. You've cut out a bunch of monsters in this deck. There's typically 10 monsters in a 6 Sams deck. This one only has 9. Less of the unnecessary monsters, I'm going to put that in quotes. There's no Grandmaster, no Iru, cards like that. There is one Kizaru for card advantage. And this pretty much just has what you need for the synchro plays. 3 Kizin, 1 Legendary Secret, of course. You've got Nishi and Dojo as well. Few back row plays. 2 Dimensional Prison. This is a card that we are seeing more play of in 6 Sams. Of course, you got World Legacy Clash, Dual Wield, and Return of the 6 Samurai. Second place, -1, beat down Dark Lords. Regular toolbox deck. 1 Dark Lord Desire, 1 Superbia, 1 Morningstar, 1 Tetzlopakia. The 2 back row cards that they kind of mix around with, Cosmic Cyclone, Treacherous Trap Hole. They kind of both help in the 1-turn kill. That's typically what you should be doing with those 2 extra slots in your deck. Third place, Master Cards, beat down 6 Dark Lords. This one's interesting and runs into the void. If you have 3 or more cards in your hand, draw 1, and then discard your entire hand during the end phase. So it's kind of filling into the 1-turn kill thing. This is a card we saw in Bamboos, I think. It's you try to draw into that win condition. And it does run 2 Hey True Nades to fit in there. And third place, Nas beat down Dark Lords again. 1 Hey True Nade. This one runs a bit more monsters, so there's 3 Dark Lord Nastin. That's what the difference is about this deck. So let's move on to the next tournament, Liga Latina 3. First place, ASAP Lab Builder Warrior Subterror. I call it Warrior Subterror because this is not a normal Subterror deck. There are 3 Ties of the Brethren, which last saw play with Gearjas, but you have to have these level 4 monsters with the same attributes. So, attributes and types, I'm sorry. So, obviously Subterror Nemesis Warrior is a level 4 Earth Warrior. This deck has Exiled Force. It has 2 Justice Bringers, and then it also has Mid-Shield Gardna. So all these cards are compatible with Subterror Nemesis Warrior. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same Subterror deck. Second place, Neo Barbaros, Time Passage, Fortune Lady. You've got the core from the first place guy. 1 Fortune Lady Light, 2 Wind, 3 Fortune Lady Pass, 2 Water, 3 Fortune Lady Calling, 1 Fortune Vision. And then you play around your back row. 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Econ, 3 Paleozoic Canadia, 1 Powerful Rebirth, 1 Regulation of Tribe. Powerful Rebirth is interesting because it does add a level to your monster, so you could get... it's easier to get into the bigger synchro plays, even with Fortune Lady Past being a card that can manipulate her levels. And Regulation of Tribe, of course, is a meta call against the cards right now. Third place, Black Snake beat down Dark Lords. Regular Dark Lord deck. It seems to have fewer monsters than normal, but it has 3 The Sanctified Dark Lord, which is a card you sometimes see 2 of, and then 2 Cosmic Cyclone. And third place, Simo, Master of Destiny, Counter Trap Desperado deck. The new Desperado deck, it does run Necro Valley for some disruption on the graveyard, and it runs Wiretap, which is pretty much an offensive-minded trap card. It's kind of like 7 Tools of the Bandit, if you remember that card, and more counter traps to work for Rebirth of Parshath. And finally, Damage Step 4. This is the one where they get to... No, it's Battle Phase. This is just a regular tournament. So, Grucius, Master of Destiny, Countertrap Desperado deck. Same deal here. With this new deck with Misjudge and the Parshath package, there's a few different back row cards here. Debunk, Wiretap, Divine Wrath, Drowning Mirror Force, and Dimensional Prison. Second place, Maxino, Sealed Tombs, 6 Sams. Sealed Tombs is making a comeback. This is a slower version of 6 Sams. You've got 2 Wall of D, which is a card you typically don't see in 6 Sams, but here it is. Third place, Lamp Posted, Ancient Gears, pretty much standard. 2 Reactive Dragon, 2 Breaker, 3 Wyvern, 3 Galaxy Cyclone, 3 Gear Town, 2 World Legacy Clash, 2 Fortress, 3 Drowning Mirror Force. We're seeing Drowning Mirror Force come in. And finally, third place, Low Hormigan beat down 6 Sams. No World Legacy Clash in this deck. There's a lot of Resurrection. 2 Powerful Rebirth, 2 Return of the Six Samurai. And based off of tournaments and the KC Cup, Duelist meta updated the tier list. Dark Lords and Desperado are still tier 1. As expected, Fortune Lady has risen to tier 2. There's nothing in tier 2 before, and even 6 Sams have gone I think I was playing the wrong deck or something, I don't know what, but 6 Sams are kind of changing their decks. They could move up to a bunch of skills. I used to Tie That Binds, but Beatdown and Sealed Tombs seem to be some of the favorite skills now. Tier 3, they still have a Mono Stun in here, I don't know why. It's a deck I never really saw. I didn't see it at all in the Kaiba Cup. Someone did place with it, but I don't know why it's there. Spellbooks, Vendreads, and Subterrors are back. Triumphs should have been back from the beginning. You see them all the time. Ancient Gears and Neos have been removed from the tier list. move on to the next item. We're waiting in the wings for Dimension World. The new world is coming out September 26th, which is Thursday. So it's going to be a bit of a wait there. But look at some of these leaks. We've got some new characters here. Some old characters. So some of these pictures, they got Yugimoto. So Yami's gone. I think that's the theme of the movie. So Yugi has made this face. He's pissed off. And it's basically this. There's this meme on Reddit where he's got like the Clash of Clans face. Like various apps have this angry guy face, and that's just the app. And if you update it to version 4 update, Yugi is making the same face. So he's joined the app thing. Kaiba is here, so this is like Bluetooth Kaiba. He's got ear set. He's got a bionic arm, and his dual disc is like a bionic arm. He's wearing a tighter shirt. That's what you can see about Kaiba. There's another guy here. He's probably a bad guy. He's holding a cube. There's a girl. She looks like a child. Mokuba is wearing a suit and he combed his hair. So those are some things. We talked about the rewards. There's a bunch of duel tickets, skill chip, 1,000 gems. Yeah. So those are things that will be happening. And the podcast question of the week, what are you looking forward to most? Reskin characters, 11%. New cards, 63%. And possible new game mode, 26%. The new game mode's basically about the new mechanic where you can use some of your life points, I think. I forgot what it was. You use this other resource to summon your monsters. And then their attack is based off how many life points you have or something. But most people are excited for new cards, of course. We get new characters, and we get more gems, of course. I am spending some of my gems to build Fortune Ladies, and I am expecting an influx of gems to help replenish me. So I'm not really, saving up right now. I don't think I'm going to buy the new box, the new structure deck, but hopefully there will be no new, OP box that I can't spend on anymore. But I am waiting for my gems to replenish because I am expecting these new characters to fill me back up. So in the podcast question of the week, Nasser says he is looking forward to all. Nasser is a very good player. He loves this game. He is hyped for Duel World. Gas Station Gyoza is also hyped. All of the above. Wolfpack 66121, all three. Honestly, everyone is hyped. Pro Benchwarmer will talk about this in his podcast, Inner Duelist Monologue. So that's all we have for Dimension World. Hopefully it is a great launch. Hopefully we get a lot of stuff. Hopefully we get impactful new cards to change the meta. I'm very excited for it. Main PvE event this week, Duelist Chronicles GX Yubel. And this covers Season 3 of the show, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And the way they did it was very disjointed. I think because, the show was very disjointed. It was a very chaotic season. And they kind of break it up into 4 parts. New Semester. New Semester is where it's the part about Viper and dual bands. So Viper is clearly evil from the first time you see him. He's a bad dude. And they introduced a lot of new characters, which are just in cutscenes right now, but they're not. They might be future characters in sometime down the road as legendary duelists, but right now they're all in the cutscenes. And part 2, Duel Academia. That's when they get transported into the world where the monsters are real, the spirit world or whatever. And you have the part about Zane and Jesse dueling to build up energy. And they get transported back in, but then Jesse dies. And Yubel takes over Jesse, so they go to the Dark World. That's another dimension. You do the thing where you fight Braun, the Dark World guy, and then you fight Jesse again. I think you fight Zane a few times. You become Zane a few times. And And then you go to Yubel's castle, you fight Yubel, you fight Jesse to free him, and then you fight Yubel, and then Jaden fuses with Yubel, and that's the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 3, and the dubs in general, so I don't know if they're going to touch Season 4 at all, but it's a very disjointed season, to say the very least. And let's talk about the skills. There's one new skill we get, Ultimate Fusion. And this is a skill exclusively for Jaden / Yubel. And if your life points are 1500 or lower, you draw Super Polymerization. And Super Polymerization is a quick play spell. You special summon a card from your extra deck using materials from either side of the field. So it's kind of like the Buster Blader fusion spell. It's a quick play as well. And you get to steal your monsters, your opponent's monsters, of course. This is very good, but also super situational. How do you get your monsters from your extra deck to match the materials on the board? The easiest way to do this is with the 6 elemental hero cards that fuse with an elemental hero and any attribute monster. So those are Excuradao for darks, the Shining for lights, Gaia for earth, Great Tornado for wind, Absolute Zero for water, and Nova Master for fire. So depending on whatever attribute thing your monster has on the board, you could steal that and just use one of your own elemental hero monsters, or better yet, if they have Brave Neoside, you could steal both of them and then make a monster. So that's really the only way you could use this card, and it just goes without saying that the card is not going to be competitively used because of the situational nature of the card. We get one copy. It's the final Lord, Raviel, Lord of Phantasms, level 10 Dark Fiend, 4000, 4000, kind of like Obelisk. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by attributing 3 fiends. It cannot be special summoned other ways. If your opponent normal summons a monster, special summon 1 Phantasm token for each monster summoned, but it cannot attack. You contribute, once per turn, you contribute a monster. This monster gains attack of the attributed monster until the end of the turn. So, there's a few ways you could get this guy out on the board. There's like a lot of fiend tokens out there. There's Fires of Doomsday. You could use Karibo Multiply, Sky Blaster, Phantom Sky Blaster, D-Boys, Crash Bugs. It's just a big beater. You can kind of... It's essentially a farming card in the end, which you can use for Gravekeeper's Vassal and Union Attack or something. It's really the only use of this card, I think. And the cards you can get from the lottery. Rainbow Dark Dragon, level 10 Dragon, 4000 attack, 0 defense. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by banishing 7 dark monsters with different names from your graveyard. Cannot be special summoned other ways. You can banish all other dark monsters you control, and from your graveyard, this card gains 500 attack for each card banished. Again, this is just a big beater with 0 defense. And it reminds me of the card Dark Nephthys, which saw no play, but that was like 3 or 5 monsters. And they all have to have different names. Best way to do this is with Grass is Greener. 30 card Grass is Greener, a lot of dark monsters that you have one of. You dump them all and get this guy out for free. There's synergy with the card Doomsday Horror, which you can recycle all of your monsters and then you get a second one out. You could do some kind of one-turn kill thing with that. Again, not a really competitive card. Vision Hero Poisoner. Level 3 Dark Warrior, 900 attack, 700 defense. If you take battle or effect damage, you can place this card from your graveyard face up in your spell or trap zone as a continuous trap. During your main phase, while this card is continuous trap, you contribute 1 hero monster, special summon this card. If this is special summoned from that spell and trap zone, have the attack of 1 monster on the field. You can use this effect once per turn. It's a lot of text for pretty much a slow but infinite mirror wall if you could fund it. Or Shrink. I think Shrink is a better comparison. But this guy has to be in the graveyard. You have to you bring him out as a trap card, trap monster, if you will. And then you bring him back into the zone, and then they have the attack of an opponent's monster, hopefully. It's slow, it's resource intensive, you have to have enough hero monsters on the board. But it's in the discussion for Masked Heroes ever making it back. I think it does have some synergy with Mask Change, Send It Away, and it's in the graveyard, and you can do as different things where you cut your opponent's monsters' life points by half, but it's just getting those monsters on the board to fund this ability is what's holding it back. We got 2 cards which we only had previously limited copies of. Crystal Beast, Emerald Tortoise, level 3, Aqua, 600, 2000, once per turn. Target one monster you control that attacked this turn. Change it to defense mode. If this face-up card is destroyed while it is in the monster card zone, put in the Spar Trap zone. So this is just basically a 2000 defender. You could put him back into defense mode after he attacked. It's kind of like Submarine Roid, I guess. I guess at some point, 2000 defense was too good, so they didn't give us enough of these, and now they're giving us unlimited copies, because who cares if you're 2000 defense now? And Rainbow Path, we get our 3rd copy here. Trap card, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, send one Crystal Beast from your spell or trap zone to the graveyard, target the attacking monster, negate the attack, add a Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon from your deck to your hand. Pretty good now. We've got Rainbow Dark Dragon, so there's more fuel for this card to be used. Situational, negate attack for Crystal Beasts. It helps the deck, but it's not going to bring them back to relevance, so that's why they gave us this card. So those are all the rewards from this event. Make sure you play it through so you can get, you get gems from the lottery. So you play it, if you're min-maxing for gems, you play through it. And also use those challenge tickets to get through all the items. You do it 9 times at least to get all the coins and gems. Of course, you want to get the Yubel skill, the Jaden / Yubel skill. Finished up with two new cards here. Tour Guide's Mission Bingo gives us a few cards. One new card, that's the Noble Knight Spear Holder. If you're trying to find this card online, it's kind of confusing because it's a Sacred Knight Spear Holder. It's not an official card, but it showed up in the anime from Sherry LeBlanc. But basically, Noble Knight Spear Holder, level 2 warrior, 800 attack, 400 defense. You contribute this face-up card on the field to add 1 equip spell from your deck to your hand. So right now we have one really good equip spell in Duel Links, and that's Power of the Guardians. So if you're a deck that really heavily relies on Power of the Guardians, you can use this card to tutor for that. And that card's really sticky, lets the monster stay on the board, and they gain attack every so often. This is a Noble Knight card, but Noble Knights frankly get their equip spells automatically from the deck, so you wouldn't be running this in Noble Knights at all, but it's just for Power of the Guardians. And the other new card, which is the Card Trader Inventory Update. This is as lame as it gets, I must say. For an update, I am looking to spend my resources to get a card every so often, and then we get this card, Venom Cobra, level 4 reptile, 100 attack, 2000 defense, vanilla monster. This card pretty much has nothing going on for it at all, except it's a venom, I guess. It's a flavor thing. I don't know what you call this. It's part of an archetype, but it's a vanilla monster, so whatever synergy the Venom Snake archetype has, this can go in, but that deck just doesn't see any play at all. I'm not sure if it sees play in the lower tiers, but I don't see it anywhere. So they have a lot of cards, but the deck is pretty much dead in the water, and this is just another card you could just spend so you could get your weekly rewards, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it. So Doug Dimmadule is finally here. Doug's casual deck for the week. This is his every spellcaster deck. Fortune Lady deck, they're the hot deck, but a little different build because he has various level 4 spellcasters in it as well. With the whole goal of the deck is to focus on level 7 synchro plays. So here is Doug Dimmadule now.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmadule with Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. This week I want to run a Fortune Lady deck, but not in the sense that you would typically see with the whole Fortune Lady archetype. I wanted to take the approach with just using generic spellcaster monsters and just generic tuners to try and get into your level 7 synchro plays. So essentially, all you're going to have in your extra deck is just any level 7 synchro monster that you think is effective. So cards that I'll run are things like Black Rose Dragon, level 7 Dragon Tuner, 2400 attack, 1800 defense. Once you get this card on the field, you can just blow everything up on the field and just call it a day. It's a really good board wipe opportunity if you need it. I'll also run copies of Arcanite Magician. You remember this one? Another level 7 synchro requiring one or more non-tuner spellcaster type monster. It's only got 400 attack, 1800 defense, but when it's synchro summoned, place 2 spell counters on it where it gains 1000 attack for each spell counter. So effectively you're going to have a 2400 attack level 7 synchro. But you could remove spellcasters from this card or on the field, and in this deck this is really going to be the only place you'll have spell counters. You'll be able to start popping monsters and spells and traps off the field very quickly. So again, Arcanite Magician, it was one from one of the other boxes. Really, one of the main cards that you're going to have for it, and I'll run 3 copies of this in this deck, is Fortune Lady Every, level 7 synchro, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner spellcaster monsters. This card's attack and defense become its level times 400. So once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's level by 1, and then you can banish 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. During your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 other spellcaster type monster from your graveyard and special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Fortune Lady Every once per turn. So this card is just phenomenal, since I know we're not really playing in a meta where you got too many face down monsters except for sub-terrors, in which case probably not the best matchup. But other than that, I mean, this card is very good, and that's why I run this deck with a ton of spellcasters, just to make sure that if it's sitting in the graveyard, we're able to banish another spellcaster and get this card back out onto the field. To round things out, because when I'm playing PvE, sometimes I'll go up against some zombie decks, I'll run a copy of Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon, just to get over any powerful zombie that my opponent has, because this card gains 100 attack and defense for each zombie-type monster on the field in the graveyard. And when another zombie-type monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon 1 zombie-type monster from either graveyard to your field. So Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon is just good if you're going up against a PvE zombie deck. That's really the only reason why I run it. But anyway, let's get into the actual main deck here. So the first spellcast that I run, and have as many copies of this as you can, is Breaker the Magical Warrior. You know this one, level 4 spellcaster, 1600 attack, 1000 defense. If this card is normal summon, place 1 spell counter on it. This card gains 300 attack for each spell counter on it. You can remove 1 spell counter from this card, then target 1 spell or trap card on the field and destroy that target. So effectively what you want to do is get this monster onto the field, pop back row, and hopefully already have a tuner on the field for you to go into a synchro play while starting to clear back row. The other monster that I have in here is, run 3 copies of it, is Lila's Lightsworn Sorceress, level 4 spellcaster, 1700 attack, 200 defense. You can target 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls. This card's battle position cannot be changed until the end of your next turn. Also, let's see here. Change this card you control to face-up attack, from face-up attack position to face-up defense position, and if you do, destroy that target. So effectively, what you're going to want to do is put this card on the field, activate its effect, switching it to defense, popping back row, and then going into your synchro play. The whole point is to reduce as much back row as possible before synchro summoning. So that's why I run Breaker the Magical Warrior, and why I run Lila Lightsworn Sorceress, because at least having those 2 cards allows you to start, clearing back row, getting your next play set up. And then for good measure, I run Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, level 4 spellcaster, 1800 attack, 700 defense. I only have 1 copy of this one, so I just stick my 1 copy of it in here. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target up to 2 monsters in their graveyard, banish those targets. Your opponent cannot banish cards from either player's graveyard. So that's a really good effect, especially in a banish heavy meta right now. This card is really good. I wish I had more copies of it. But again, at the end of the day, the theme of these 3 spellcasters are that they're all level 4. So Basically, all we run are additional level 3 tuners. So what are some examples of level 3 tuners you could run? Well, the first one is Dark Resonator. It's a level 3 Fiend tuner. It's not a spellcaster, but we'll make do. The first time this card would be destroyed by battle each turn, it's not destroyed. Now, that's why I'm trying to put tuners in there that can at least have some kind of staying power on the field. If your opponent is trying to get a boss monster out, at least you could probably try and survive one turn. Then I also run Double X Saber Full Helm Knight. It's a warrior tuner. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target the attacking monster and negate the attack. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. So again, it allows you at least for one turn to keep your tuner on the field. Hopefully, unless they're swarming the board, that's kind of this deck's main weakness. But that's why, at least as far as spells and traps go, I run 3 copies of World Legacy Clash. That way you can banish your own monster, reduce the attack of one of your opponent's monsters, and hopefully have enough life points left to get that card back on the field at the end of the turn, and the next turn go into your synchro play. I'll also run 3 copies of Drowning Mirror Force. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you shuffle all attack position monsters your opponent controls into the deck. So, and then just for good measure, Wall of Disruption. It seems like a lot of these battle phase trap cards are starting to make their way back in. The only significant weakness here would be the Ancient Gear archetype, or maybe even Ultra Athletes. The UA monsters there that will prevent you from activating any effects during the damage step or the battle phase there. That could be a little bit of an issue, but other than that, for most of the archetypes that I'm seeing right now, these traps are doing pretty good again. So they're kind of coming and going in waves. As for skills, there's a few skills you could use, but I like to use Time Passage. What it allows you to do is add 3 levels to a Fortune Lady monster. So once you get into your Synchro Summon play for Fortune Lady Every, you're able to then change the attack up to at least 4,000 attack and defense for that turn. So again, it's something that as long as you have one copy of this on the field and your opponent was in a position, maybe you shuffled their cards back into the deck last turn, you're able to make a solid play and just swing for 4,000 life points. It's game over. So again, this is just a really, really fun deck to play. It's not the most effective tactic to be able to use Fortune Lady Every or how to use level 7 synchros, but I like the theme of just spellcasters. Spellcasters is one of my favorite archetypes, and just finding different ways to, at a slower pace, get some of these synchro plays going. I think this is one that you could definitely utilize. In a PvE setting, it's a pretty effective deck for non-competitive play. So anyway, that's it for my casual deck of the week. I will see you next time. Take care.
All right, thanks, Doug, and you can check him out on this podcast every week or on Twitter, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk. Let me know what you think about the decks. All right, so upcoming news: Sartorius is coming to the gate soon. We're already past mid-September, so he should be there any day now. Of course, we're waiting for September 26th, the massive update. Dimension World is coming up. We're getting a lot of stuff. There's also going to be a new structured deck, probably the Magician of Chaos structured deck as well. Duel Quest, late September, and then the Unknown Duelist and Duel World. This probably will be a Dimension World character. I think there is reports of a bad guy named Scud who does bad things and films them online, which is pretty much a meta thing to do in real life anyways. But that's a clue about who that could be. And we'll also get our updates, new upcoming updates, so next show should be pretty packed. We should have a lot to talk about. And I'm very excited, of course, about Dimension World. I'm ready to dive in, and I should watch that movie, so I should know what to expect. Alright, so that's it for this podcast for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, look for this podcast, subscribe, like. Find me on Twitter, duel_assessment, or my own personal account at Green Ranger CCG. Alright, so we're waiting for the hype for next week, and I will see you then.